And the winner will take away $361,000 US. So Pete Sampras assured of another week at #1, even if he loses this match, because Patrick Rafter, of course, defending all the points from last year. He could have been overtaken by both Agassi and Kavalnikov this week, but their defeats in the semi-finals mean that Sampras is going to be #1 for a 273rd week.
Sampras, well, his initials say it as well. He's written a postscript to all the obituaries I've happened to say about him, including not winning Wimbledon, not perhaps beating Agassi in LA, not beating Krajicek here. He's had a tremendous postscript for all of them, because he's come through against his nemesis Krajicek, he's come through against his great rival Agassi to set up one of the matches of the year, surely.
As you can see, Sampras with the lead, but just look at the last three. Starting here, and here it's Rafter starting.
It looked to me as if Rafter had won the spin of the coin, elected to serve, and Sampras choosing this end.
Well, at the start of this match, Patrick Rafter had played 178 points on his own serve during the tournament and won 147 of them. Only lost 31 points on serve the entire championships. Faced just the one break point. And he starts with the love service game. Very impressive indeed from the defending champion. New tennis balls at 3-4. Lovely to see this stadium, which holds 10,600, packed to the gunnels. And Sampras ahead in the aces race, 3-1. Surprisingly, he was behind coming into the match, 27-33.
Yes, I think it's the best serving performance we've seen from Sampras so far at the beginning of a match. Famous last words.
Yes, cue 3 consecutive double faults. It's ironic, isn't it? The old curse of the commentators, we call it.
And as a result of that double, actually putting in a much slower first serve. I would imagine that's, well, is it a discussion with Anna Cohn? I wonder. Sampras is so much his own man. But certainly took a lot off.
Well, continuing to match each other, point for point. Both have now lost 3 points on serve. And in each case, they've come up with 1 double fault.
Well, always a significant breakthrough to annex that first point. Pressure on server. Bit of relief on the returner, feels he can hit out.
Two terrific backhands.
Well, we heard the national anthems sung before the match, and you can almost see the Star Spangled Banner now.
Plenty of support, though, for the Australian.
Well, the English cricketers many years ago in Australia used the body line tactic when they bowled at the Australian batsmen. Bounced the ball into the pitch up at them, and that one certainly rearing directly at Sampras's body.
Well, he middled that one nicely. And when it came off the racket, I'm sure he was thinking, oh, that sounds good. But just overhit it. Big effort from Rafter, a couple of aces, and he gets out of a love 30 situation and is ahead again. 5-4 in the opening set.
Sampras missed the backhand. Rafter played a very good into-out volley. Sampras' return wasn't bad, and it was only the skill on the volley that made it just that little bit more difficult for Sampras, who felt as a result that he had to really hit flat out. And of course, as a result of hitting flat out, it was just out.
Pete on this wonderful streak. He's won his last 21 matches. And Rafter has had a marvellous time since going to Rome back in May. He's won 29 of his last 35 matches. After, by his standards, a pretty poor start to the year. But as Sampras was saying, those little clips we heard at the start of the match, Rafter always seems to be able to peak around about August time.
Yes, and it's not a sharp peak, isn't it? Is it? It's an extended peak, which he able to take over a few weeks.
A little bit of added pressure for Sampras as he serves to stay in the set at 4-5.
Having to reduce, of course, the speed when he goes for that angle one. He's getting quite a bit more spin on it. It's not the flat serve, the faster serve that he serves straight down the middle.
Correction, ball's good. 30 run.
The overrule from Norm Christ. After at first was going to walk, and then he just made a comment en passant.
Conditions certainly a lot fierier today. The balls seem to be flying a bit more.
2 aces and a double in this game so far.
Rafter's exercising his mind and not a lot else. Tension quite electric. Well, I mentioned the fact that Rafter gets down so well to his volleys. He's able to conjure up strength from a weak position, and Sampras certainly doing that there.
Just beginning to make some telling returns now, Sampras. Second successive game, he's won the first point on the Rafter serve. Another reason why I'm surprised he's not wearing a hat is I notice he's getting a little thin on top, Mr. Sampras.
Hence his maturity at press conferences now.
Well, that's why you've never matured. You've still got a full head of hair.
That's that boyish. And he must have been startled to get a shot on the forehand, and Rafter startled but showing how terrific his reflexes are with the net cord.
Well, you have to feel for Rafter. He did so well to stay in that point, and then the net cord robs him of it.
I love the little smile from Sampras. I'm sure partly acknowledging the fact that this is a net he ought to take home with him.
Still haven't had a juice game in this opening set, which is moving rapidly towards a tie-break. But first, Sampras must hold serve. 6-5. For a second time, Sampras serving to stay in the set, and this time trying to force the tiebreak. Well ahead now in aces, 7-3. That's pretty quick. Got one a little faster than that earlier on in the tournament. Little love game as he heads into the tiebreak, and morally he should win it because he's only lost 4 points on serve. Rafter's lost 7.
Well, this is the 47th set between these two, and they share tiebreakers at 5 apiece.
So the immediate mini break.
1-0, Sampras.
Beautiful judgment.
2-0, Sampras.
J'y étais aussi. J'y étais.
Well, Rafter, I think, was looking to run around.
3-0, Sampras.
Really coming around this one to impart the slice. 9th ace.
C'est jeudi, non? Le match derrière.
Well, most of his attempts on the backhand side have been down the line. And of course, the Rafter's quality volleying really makes Sampras feel that he has to go for the line.
Oh my word.
Just as well. It should mean 2 serves for Sampras.
The noise it made, I thought the racket had actually broken. It's just the strings have collapsed in a major way.
Versus.
Yes, amazing.
4-2.
And really fooling Rafter a couple of times in this tiebreak, with that wide serve on the right court, now that much slower kick serve, using a bit of Rafter's intelligence in the serve. There's a hole in the bucket there, Liza. That could be really speedy indeed. Not quite up to his 134 mark yet.
But it does take him into double figures. Not too far away, but he's not making enough of them. Well, you can see now the temperature, even at coming up to 5 o'clock local time, over 90 degrees. Of course, that's in the sun. So I suppose the shade temperature would be at least 10 degrees less than that. So just that 1 point, the first point, has gone against the serve in the tiebreak, but because of it, Sampras now with the opportunity. 2 points needed, 2 service points to come.
It's very important for Rafter to win those 2. It just keeps him within sight, within reach.
He's made it.
Well, it's the first time we've really seen Rafter and make consecutive ground strokes in the match. Just enough time to have control and complete the follow-through and not just snatch at the ball.
The first set point is Sampras's. And the tiebreak against Agassi in the first set, 9-7, and peculiarly never faced a set point. He was always in front. Well, he is such an athlete at the net, Rafter.
Yeah, so much of a predator climbing on top of the net, because that was variation from Sampras. The expectation really should have been that Sampras was going to play another backhand down the line. He's been playing it all the time.
So now it's Rafter's turn to have set point.
7-6, Rafter.
He's having to contend with, of course, one of the greatest serves of all time, I have no doubt. Very difficult to pick where he's going to hit that ball. Remember, taught by the Los Angeles pediatrician, Pete Fisher. Last minute told where to hit the ball as he threw it up.
It's wide, and the set is Sampras's. Takes the tiebreak by 9 points to 7. And the set by 7 games to 6.
Yes, always had the feeling that unless Sampras hiccuped with the double fault, and yet even though he's served a couple of double faults in the set, it just seems to me that his serving is that much more venomous than it's been in either of his matches against Krajicek or Agassi. Didn't see the Simring match, but against Schuttler, Sampras found it difficult really to get going. Against Krajicek and Agassi obviously had to, but his serving here has been quite imperious, I think.
Yeah, that's huge, isn't it? 69% of first serves in, 10 aces. And Rafter, actually, for him, that's very low. Trying to remember, in the semi-final against Kavalnikov, what was it, 78?
79% first serves in, yes. And consistently this year, he's over 60% first serves in, Rafter.
No, you won't see many maps like this during the course of the year. Both men spending the majority of their time inside the baseline. Yes, of course, on the service points won. Well, Rafter's covering more ground, but doing so more slowly. Sometimes, of course, when you cover more ground, you have to run faster to do so. No break points in the opening set. What will the second produce? And if you're a Rafter fan, well, don't panic. He lost the first set last year. 6-1 and still won the final.
Well, Sampras unchanged, but Rafter certainly looking more vigorous, as of course he needs to be, but sometimes it's more easily said than done. Can even be a little more paralyzed, really, if you've lost the set, down on yourself.
Oh, that's a wonderful shot from Sampras. I mean, Rafter would have been thinking, hey, that's a good return, I've got a chance here, and Sampras to make a clean winner out of it. Sets himself, and well, he even slipped a little bit, didn't he, as he was moving for it, but a little chopped backhand.
Well, the attempt really of a dismissive half volley by Sampras, who's so good in it, but it comes from the fact that he's a set up, 40 love up. And Sampras, of course, now with the advantage of serving first in this second set, should always have his nose in front. A set and 1 love to him. That's looking a little ominous. That's the sort of backhand strike that he was making towards the end of his match with Krajicek.
Le danger devant le but du Barça avec Mendieta qui cherche Claudio Lopez.
Just wonder whether the pressure is getting to Rafter all of a sudden. Didn't expect him to miss a volley like that, and there's a jar for Sampras. If he can walk through it, it could be decisive. Oh my, he knows that was close.
Oh, it's a terrific effort by Sampras, because Rafter's been winning a lot of those points with that serve at the body.
The first break points of the match. Well. It's not a scenario we expected. Rafter serving a double to concede his serve. And all of a sudden, from 5 points all, well, I suppose we take it further, from 7 points all in the tiebreak. He played, what, 12 points, and Rafter's won 2 of them.
Linesman, Shawarbi.
Yes, a great edge serving first, providing you hold that opening service game that Sampras did so well. Well, I hope he hasn't done himself an injury here. Marvellous play by Rafter. I'm not sure whether this was going out or not, but Rafter seemingly had no doubts. No, it looked as if it was going in. But the fact that he took it that early gave Sampras less time.
Well, just when we thought Sampras had got a real grip on the match, Rafter bites back. Sampras paying the price for taking a lot of pace off.
I was surprised in the first serve to the right court at Love All that he went for the wide one. 2 games up, really. Should be looking to hit the big one down the middle. Well, he got his footwork hopelessly wrong there. It's all those weights Sampras puts in Rafter's sneakers, weighing him down.
It's hard to believe, isn't it? We go all that time without a break point, and now we're on course for successive breaks.
You might have noticed Rafter feeling his right shoulder there. He's had some tendonitis problem. That's the serve that I thought Sampras should have used to get things going in this game.
Well. Rafter breaks straight back. And the match is back in the melting point. 2-1.
Yes, I think just a slightly relaxed attitude by Sampras. The first set being so tense, so little in it. I think getting to 2-love, perhaps just looking a little too far ahead of himself, and not enough, by his standards, concentration right at the beginning of the game. And of course then that inspired volley by Rafter, which had he let the ball bounce, of course, he was in no position. He could really then only have scrambled a half volley or put up the defensive lob, and Sampras would have been a point ahead, or at least equal. So the combination, and Rafter right back in it.
And how often do we see that? The most difficult service game to hold, it's often said, is the one after you've just broken. You're conscious of the need to consolidate the break. Your opponent is doubly determined to break back. But good for this capacity crowd that the match is still in the melting pot. You didn't want to see a one-sided final. Rafter again exercising the shoulder. He's even talking about having to pull out of the US Open at the start of the week. New balls in play, 1-2, a break of serve each this set.
Quite a good idea to chase after those serves, of course, just to get into a routine of returning. I think he's calling probably for a trainer, Rafter. The next change of ends.
Dégagé par la défense catalane. Est-ce qu'elle a les ressources pour aller très vite de l'avant? Oui, Patrick Kluivert qui est kitsch. Et puis, il est en forme. Patrick Kluivert, il va chercher Luis Figo. C'est peut-être le joueur qui mérite la meilleure impression.
Sampras hasn't had many opportunities to make a telling forehand.
I always enjoy seeing that, because it's one of the memories I have of first seeing Sampras was his forehand down the line.
Word. Well, there's that sort of snapped backhand, rather like that one on the half volley he played.
Yes, just gets inside it with the inside edge of the racket just to control it. It's not hit very flat, more control with a bit of spin.
Well, that's a terrific fight back from Rafter. Set and 2-love down. His cause looked, well, not hopeless, but very, very difficult.
And having broken through the Sampras serve, you just wonder what it's done to Sampras's psyche now. His serve looked impenetrable. Players measuring that sun. Now best to avoid it on the toss.
qu'on est en club.
An unusual stay back by Sampras.
There's Doug Spreen, the trainer, waiting to come on, presumably to treat the Rafter shoulder.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what Sampras does now. If he stays back or not. I think that's the right move, because I think he stayed back on that last point, because of course he missed on game point on his last service game. He missed that backhand volley, but really Rafter, providing Sampras' serving continues in the same vein, Rafter's unlikely to trouble him too much.
Well, suddenly Sampras looking a little vulnerable. Seven points lost in the Sampras serve in this set so far, only 4 in the first.
40-30.
As Rafter puts that shoulder through a lot of contortions, particularly on the backhand side, and naturally with the serve.
Beginning to read that kick serve when Sampras takes the pace off.
La défense catalane qui est quand même
High speed, high heat, much sweating, but no sweat bands for Sampras. Well, Rafter almost seemed to be waiting for that.
It's the first deuce game of the match.
Well, Sampras had a bicycle to get to this. Certainly had to make that little bit of an extra movement.
Use number 11. First from either man in the second set, and Sampras leads 3-2. Serve at 2-3.
Can we get that sign taken down? Thank you.
Entre le Barça et Valence. Andere jeugdspeler. C'est le retour.
Yes, this is what happened at the change of ends.
à part entière. Claudio Lopez. Pour Carboni, le centre.
Well, Sampras almost beaten by Rafter's slower ball there. And really set up. Didn't move his feet there.
Just a fourth ace from Rafter.
Sergi, oui, logique cette obstruction sur Farinas. Bien vu, monsieur Lopez Nieto.
And just a second love service game for Rafter compared with Sampras' 3. So after the exchange of breaks at the start of this set, things have settled down again.
Well, I think had he controlled it well, it was a winning lob by Rafter, because Sampras was certainly taken aback before he had to move back comfortably. Last Australian winner before Rafter last year was Ken Rosewall in 1970.
No, just the little brush on the top of the net made all the difference.
Reminded me a bit of Greg Grzycki battering Magnus Gustafsson at the Paris-Bercy. Not reading Gustafsson, not reading the left-hander spins.
Talking of Greg, I notice he's not in the field again for Indianapolis, so this long injury layoff continues. A bit worrying that. 4-3 Sampras leads on serve, second set. Set and 4-3. Rafter to serve. Break of serve each in this second set. Well ducked by the centre service judge.
Well, Sampras coming in quite a bit for that second serve, taking it a lot earlier. Catching Rafter low down. And the creme de la creme of his shots. That forehand down the line.
Hello. Yes, and his reaction was sort of almost, hallelujah, I've made one.
Yes, Rafter perhaps not getting it quite deep enough, and Sampras just flicking it, playing it well out in front of him.
Solide. Il va y avoir un changement.
Suddenly, Sampras finding the range on the backhand. And Rafter, who before this match had only faced one break point in the entire tournament, hadn't lost his serve at all, now in danger of losing it for the second time in the set. It's long. And Sampras will serve for the title.
Sampras leads 5-3.
And you can't imagine him not being fully concentrated now.
I really thought Rafter had that one covered. Thought Sampras had gone the wrong way.
Magnificent. Rafter threw everything at him.
Yeah, sore shoulder and all. Rafter really on the stretcher played that so low, and Sampras fully intending, of course, to cut under that ball and play the stop volley. And you can see the shadow approaching, but the ball veering away from Rafter.
Fourth double fault.
Well, really went for a little extra on the serve. Rafter really played a pretty good return, and then seemed to be to the next shot well ahead of himself.
Ace number 12, and Sampras has 2 match points. And in his last 2 tournaments, Sampras has ended losing streaks to Ferreira, Krajicek, and now Rafter. This extraordinary sequence, which started at Queen's, continues. 22 consecutive victories now, 4 consecutive tournaments. Good to see them exchanging some very pleasant words at the end, given the words that they were exchanging at LA, not directly, but via press conferences. And the rebirth of Sampras continues through.
Yes, good mature sign there, and I think this is a maturing Sampras, certainly temperamentally, psychologically, and a wonderful streak. And I just wonder, as he was shaking hands with an Australian, whether he remembered that it was Mark Philippoussis, of course, who had him, it seemed, at Wimbledon, and yet had to retire in that match, and who knows, might well be responsible for this almost resuscitation, rebirth of Sampras, back at the very top with successive wins against Agassi and now Rafter.
And I just wonder how much the shoulder was a factor in Rafter's, for him, low first serve percentage? We shall no doubt find out in the post-match press conferences. But just look at the winners and statistic from Sampras. Brilliant.
Yes, I thought he served really, apart from that one game. He served in a different world today than he has been this week. Made it that much more difficult for Rafter, sore shoulder and all.
So the statistics, these are the points won by Sampras. And despite that, just look how often Rafter was inside the net, inside the service line. The points won by Rafter, and in fact, funnily enough, there he's a bit further back when he's winning the points. But very impressive by Sampras. Just that one little hiccup when he dropped his serve early in the second set. But Sampras, the champion in Cincinnati, 4 titles in a row for the world #1. So for the 60th time in his career, Pete Sampras steps forward to receive a tournament trophy and check. And he becomes only the 6th man in the Open era to win 60 singles titles. The others, Connors, Lendl, McEnroe, Borg and Vilas. It's an impressive cast.
So without further ado, let me present to you today, on behalf of Great American, the winner's check for $361,000.
$361,000 as he nears the $37.5 million mark in terms of career prize money.
Birthday party that we're having for you. I want to present to you today, on behalf of Great American Insurance, the Winner's Cup, a Waterford Crystal, testimony to your championship style and your victory here today.
Waterford Crystal were big supporters of the ATP Tour. Also make the World Champions Trophy. Getting used to it again, isn't he? 4 tournament victories in a row.
Thank you. That was a lot of compliments there. I appreciate that. Well, I'd like to thank, obviously, the people that helped me get me here. My coach, Paul Anacone, for his help this week. My masseur, Walt, and my stringer, Nate. I got a pretty big entourage, and thank God I won this first round prize money so I can pay all their expenses. But I think we all should applaud Paul Flory, who
the tournament director,
who I've gotten to know very well over the years, and his commitment to tennis and tennis in Cincinnati is truly awesome. And we know it's his 25th year this year, and I think of anyone on this court, he deserves a round of applause. Also like to thank the ATP Tour, Jay Wayne Richmond, Mark Miles, putting together a great tour for the players. It's seemed like it gets better each year. But I have to thank the fans of Cincinnati for coming out and supporting not only myself but the tournament. I've been here 10 years and I've had a great time. Even though I've won here and I've lost here, I can always walk out of Cincinnati and feel like this is great tennis, it's great atmosphere, and I certainly hope I'm back next year. Thank you.
Pete Sampras, the champion in Cincinnati for the 3rd time. Thanks for your company this week. Do hope you've enjoyed our coverage. Next tennis on Eurosport, the Women's WTA Tour or Canadian Open in Toronto, starting on Wednesday. Do hope you'll join us for that. But for now, from Fred McMillan and myself, David Mercer, and all the Eurosport tennis team, thanks for your company. See you again soon. Bye-bye.